despite all painting the tabs weak as a bad thing, a friend told me that it's really good because it helps him connect numbers with names, with addresses. So, not sure if it was that bad. So, but that was a friend. That was a friend. So, well, first, thanks for inviting me to speak here. The good thing of not being a Dashlane employee is that if this goes really wrong, I cannot be fired, which is awesome. But should be fine. So basically, I'm the CTO and co-founder of Probably. Probably is essentially a DAST, a scanner that finds vulnerabilities in web applications and APIs. And that's all of what I'm going to say about it. If you want to know more, please find me after the talk. I've been in this security world for almost 20 years. Before Probably, me and Nuno, my current CEO, we created the application security team of Sapo in Portugal Telecom, the largest telco in Portugal. And this was actually how we came up with the idea of Probably and experienced the problems. And before that, I used to spend all my professional time sniffing the network. So I had a few years of looking at packets going back and forth. And more recently, 2 years ago, together with a few friends, we decided to continue to give back to the community, and we resurfaced the OWASP Lisboa chapter, which is a non-profit that promotes application security. And the highlight of this, we do free meetups every once in a while. The highlight of this is that we managed to convince OWASP to bring their global AppSec from London to Lisbon next week. So I think there's still tickets. I think there's still tickets available. They're expensive, but I have a discount code. Please just let me know about it. So today I'm going to talk about the challenges of scanning, of doing security. It's not only scanning in CI/CDs, in the continuous integration, continuous deployment processes. There's some challenges, of course, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But I also will try to provide some guidance, give you some ideas that I've seen working, both in my own experience, but also in our customers. So why this constant trend and insistence in doing and talking about security in CI/CD? Everyone, maybe for the last 10 years, have been talking about shift left. Let's put the tests before everything. Shift right. Let's put the tests after everything. Automation and a lot of buzzwords. And normally, I would say these are vendor buzzwords, and I'm a vendor, so I'm speaking against me. But this is actually good because there's some kind of convergence, coherency, and everyone is talking about this, and this is good because this trend, these buzzwords mean something good, and it's pushing the industry towards something that makes sense, which is basically testing more, testing often, testing as early as possible. And it seems there's no disadvantages. It's all great because if you test more in theory, you should have more secure software. If you find vulnerabilities or bugs before going to production, it should be cheaper to fix, and this is according to NIST, because if you see the vulnerability in your code, you can fix it immediately without a change request, without a build, without a deploy, without an approval. You know how it works. So doing this process early also empowers the developers, because in the end, they are the ones that introduce most of the vulnerabilities, inadvertently, I hope. But they are also the ones that fix them. So we should look forward to empower the developers so they can fix the vulnerabilities like they fix the bugs. Because this way they'll be more autonomous. The whole process will be faster, and the security teams will have less work. Who here does security on a daily basis? Okay, the rest developers? Product engineering, those kind of things. Okay, cool. So let's imagine we want to add security to our CI/CD pipeline, and there's 1,000 different CI/CD pipelines. This is a very generic one. when someone does the code, they commit to the repo, they build the code, some tests run, they send it to a test environment, then it's deployed to another environment, and then maybe there's some post-deploy or production verifications. So in theory, if you want to add security here, we grab security, we put it there, and it's done, right? I'm oversimplifying here because this security step can appear and should appear in all of these steps, and this depends on your maturity, on what you are doing. So this is just an example. And this security test can represent a lot of things. It can represent software composition analysis, like finding if my node's dependencies have vulnerabilities. If there are nodes, they have, for sure, thousands, right? We should tools that test the codes or test the application like hackers do from an outside or black box point of view, tools that look at the code, or the pen test itself, which is when a real human tries to attack the application. So these security tests can be any of those. For the sake of the most of the presentation, I'm going to focus on Dast, and then I'll talk a little bit about the others, or some of them, to give you some insights. So if you add security to the pipeline, if you add a scanner to the pipeline, you basically get this. A lot of waiting. I don't know how many of you have tried to add a scanner, a security scanner, any kind of security scanner to a pipeline, but it's all about waiting. Why? Because the tests take a lot of time. So, and this is some numbers I gathered from inside my teams, from friends, from the internet, but it varies a lot. But it's common for pipelines to take minutes, in the order of minutes, and this is the order of magnitude I want to talk about. But scans easily take hours, and the only source of real statistics I had was from my product. So half of the scans take less than 1 hour, so the other half takes more than 1 hour. And I'm already talking about hours, not minutes. So this immediately affects, has an impact on the pipeline. And this is a well-known problem in the industry with regards to adding security to the pipeline. And what happens if you make the pipelines really long, and like double the time, triple the time, quadruple the time? Sometimes we have scans that take a whole day. So imagine a developer wanting to push a feature and having to wait 24 hours for the feature to go. So that's not good for obvious reasons. Everyone will be pissed because everything is taking a lot of time. The developers will lose their focus because they'll switch contexts. And despite some people being really good at switching contexts, that has a price. And eventually you lose focus. And it's a lot of waiting. So it's not really good to have those scans, the pipelines taking too long. And then there's other variables like costs. The pipelines, it's code running on machines. Someone is paying for those machines. So if the CI/CD pipeline takes longer, the CI minutes will exhaust sooner, and you have to pay more. So, and normally it's not the security team that pays those minutes, so they don't care a lot about how long it takes, which is not good. So, a message I want to transmit is that security cannot delay development in any way. Security, unfortunately, in the last years, security has been shifting, their image has been shifting from being the bad guys, the guys that say no, to something which I'm not sure. We are still not the good guys or the guys that say yes, but we are no longer seen as the bad guys, or I want to believe that. So security must work with the company because the company's goal is to make money. For them to make money, they want to sell services or build products. So for that to happen, developers need to work. The product team needs to work. So security needs to enable them, help them, not block, not say no, not delay. Of course, this is these goals conflict with each other. So of course, the balance is everything. So supposing we have a problem with the scans taking too long, and everything is being delayed because the security scans, the security tests take too long, we might imagine, okay, let's increase the speed of the tests. And most tools have settings to increase the number of tests that are performed by second or by minute. That's an interesting idea, but simply doesn't work. Why? Most of the times you are doing tests or running the security tests on your test environments, QA, staging, pre-production. And normally those environments are much smaller than production in terms of infrastructure. Why? Because they're not making money, so they get smaller machines, right? We cannot spend like at large. So if you increase the number of tests the scanners do, you will kill the test environments. And I've done it. Everyone that does security has done it. And that will basically piss the developers and stop the whole thing, and no one will be happy. So increasing the scan speed doesn't really work because most environments will not be able to handle the load. So starting with some ideas that, again, I've seen some of these being used in real life, past experiences, current customers, others, people that I know in the industry that have been trying them. And one of them is focusing on high-risk vulnerabilities. So by default, and the security mindset is, I don't want to be fired because I missed the vulnerability, so I'll test everything. And that's the default way we security people operate. But that doesn't really work. So one idea is to, okay, disable everything. Let's just focus on what matters. High-risk vulnerabilities. Which ones? The ones that can really have an impact on your business. A SQL injection. It takes a SQL injection to completely destroy your company. I can't remember how that was hacked. It was not a SQL injection. No, I think so. Not, but there's a lot of companies that were completely destroyed because a single SQL injection exfiltrated their database. So by focus on this, instead of testing for 200 types of vulnerabilities, you test for one. You are much faster. And let's be honest, if you are trying to test for all the vulnerabilities with all the different severity levels like low, you are basically telling the developers it's low, don't care about it. And they will not care. Even the color, the typical color of the low-risk vulnerabilities is green or blue. That doesn't scare anyone. Only look at the red, right? So why are we even reporting them? So disable all those things and focus on what matters. Start really small. Another approach, and this can be combined together, is to focus on the low-hanging fruit. So the theory here is that most attacks are not targeted, are either automated or the attacker wants a quick profit and basically goes after the weakest link, the weakest target. And if the target is too good, if the door is closed, they'll move to the next open door. They won't spend a lot of time trying to pick lock the lock. So basically focus on the low-hanging fruits, the ones that are really easy to detect, because if you take those out of the way, most likely automated tools, low-effort attackers will move on to the next target because they cannot find anything on yours. Also, this will probably save you 1,000 emails from beg bounties, which are people saying that we found a high-risk vulnerabilities on your website, please pay me now. And in the end, you'll see, and it's not a high-risk vulnerability, it's just most of the times, it's just some crappy misconfiguration. So you basically will save everyone a lot of time. That's one approach. And the other is, you know your company, you know you have an history of cross-site scripting problems because, I don't know, you are using an ancient technology or you don't use a templating system. Okay, let's enable those tests because I know there's a tradition of those problems. So with these techniques, you basically get a much faster scan. You also get, like I mentioned, a smaller number of vulnerabilities because most tools will report a huge number of issues. So you take the low risk out of the way. It's good for you, good for the developers. Everything is faster and you make everyone happier. So, but this is a trade-off. We are essentially trading off coverage, security coverage for speed. So what if instead of testing for less vulnerabilities, because I'm afraid, I'm a security guy, I'm afraid of not testing for all the vulnerabilities, I want to test everything, right? Instead of that, what if we test a smaller area? We test more vulnerabilities, but we test less of the application. The idea here is, or the concept behind this is incremental scanning, like incremental backups. So you do one big scan, complete, and then you only scan the changes. So imagine your team changes the application every week because they're agile and there's new features and fixes every week. Instead of running a full scan every week, you basically just scan or test the files, the URLs, the endpoints, whatever it was changed. So it should be easy to understand that if you scan only 10% of the application, only /admin, it's much faster than scanning everything. And you probably can enable some more vulnerabilities during those tests. This is easier said than done. And there's some caveats, especially with Dust, with scanners, because they don't have access to the code. They see it like the user from the outside point of view. You might end up with blind spots. Imagine you change register.php. There's an input filtering function there that validates what the user inputs. And you change that function. And that's it. And the scanner will pick up that the file has changed. And it will test it. And nothing comes up. It's secure. The problem is that the function that was changed here was used in profile.php and that file hasn't changed. So basically now you might have introduced the vulnerability that it's reflected here. So the malicious input enters here where there's no issue, but it exits the application here, and then you end up with a vulnerability that your scanner didn't caught because it has blind spots. Here, the tools that analyze the source, the static analysis security testing tools, will perform a little bit better because they should be able to see that profile.php somehow includes register.php. And the examples could go on, but that's essentially the idea. So is there any way we can improve even more these trade-offs? Because it's all about trade-offs. We are not going to be able to scan everything like we wish. That's naive. So a good trade-off, really cool one, is to basically do the faster scans. The scans that happens more frequently should be faster. So if you choose to scan on every commit, and I've never seen anyone doing that, because at least with a scanner, with the last scanner. But imagine you scan on all, you do a test on every pull request or merge request. That scan should be fast because you probably have a lot of merge requests during the week, right? And you don't want to delay the whole development process. Then you can have scans that take a little bit longer. So they test more vulnerabilities or broader areas of the application when you switch environments, when the code goes from the development to the testing environment and so on and so forth. And then you can go crazy and have almost complete scans nightly. And I'm saying not complete, but almost, because they still might take a lot of hours. So yeah, ideally, you want the scans, these scans to run within one day, right? So otherwise, they start to pile up. And then maybe you do some complete scans on the week in your staging and production environment. So basically, what you are doing here, and suppose you were not doing any kind of security testing before, you reduced your attack window to at most a week, because you have at least a full scan every week. So yes, you might still introduce vulnerabilities and they still might go to production and you might still be exposed for a week, but you are already way better than before. And then you can fine tune this thing and make the scans run more frequently or more faster. And I mentioned here scanning in staging and production. And this normally when when the audience is as a majority of security people, people start to twitch and be nervous, like scanning production. So the question is, should I scan my production environment? My answer is yes, period. And I had people answering me back, no, it's no. So yes, why? Multiple reasons, and these are the boring ones. Your server in production might differ for multiple reasons. Because, I don't know, you're only paying for software in production and not on your test environment. And normally in this case, you are probably better in production, but might be the other way around, or you have some misconfiguration here. You might have different libraries in production because you are not deploying the whole thing at once. You are deploying code and you are forgetting to update the operating system. And one that I really like is because you have more data in production. And you wouldn't believe how many times me as a pen tester in a previous life found vulnerabilities in, for instance, the page parameter, the pagination. Why? Because in the test environments, there's not enough data to trigger pagination. So if there's a list with the default 100 items and the test environment has 20 items, pagination is never tested. So the parameters never appear, the links never appear. And I've seen this happen multiple times. Another example is that specific customer that we managed to give a discount with a coupon code, and we changed the plan just for him because, and that situation doesn't happen in staging because that's a real life situation for a specific customer, and you never replicate it back in staging. So that account, that scenario, that entry never exists in staging. So you do everything passes in QA and staging. You, in the middle of the production deploy, your migration blows up or something blows up because, oh, damn it, it's not the same. So yes, you should test in production. And also because if you argue that you should not test in production, what, are you putting banners saying, please don't hack me, here's a test environment instead? I don't know, it doesn't work like that. If you are on the internet, you are exposed. I remember some years ago doing a pen test to a payment thing, and the person from compliance kept coming to me saying, Tiago, you cannot create test accounts in production. Yes, I can. You cannot. No, yes, look, put it in the browser, create account, that's it. But you can't. I can. So if you are on the internet and there's no argument for not scanning yourself because you are already being scanned, period. The internet is scanning you. The big bountiers are scanning you to try to extort you from money. There's thousands of scans happen every day, and who works in security knows this. It's a mess. So no excuse. Of course, there's some fine print. Hopefully you have backups. I'm kind of a paranoid freak, a backup freak with backups of site and everything. So my house can burn. I can be naked, but I still have my backups. I've been burned, not literally, but I've been burned before, so I'm never going to do that mistake again. But you need to have backups and you need to work. I or a friend inadvertently once or twice deleted some production databases. And I can tell you that backups sometimes have never been tested. So you should test your backups. You should also be careful with not using an admin account, because the admin account will have links that say delete the whole thing. And the tool, if the tool is good, it will click it or not. And of course, you should try to do scans before in other environments first to try to avoid any mess in production. It's also very common when you scan production that you will annoy the marketing or the sales team because it will mess their analytics. It will spam them when the tool goes to the contact form. But that's not an excuse not to scan. You just need to find a way, or then they need to find a way to exclude that data, or you need to find a way not to test that contact form. But see, you're already excluding a part of the application, so you need to find another way to test it. So a technique I've been seeing in a lot of our customers with a lot of success is asynchronous scanning. So it's really sexy to say, let's put security in the pipeline. But what really works is to take the security of the pipeline. So how? With the synchronous scanning, use the pipeline to trigger the scans, but make the scans run asynchronous in a detached environment. So the pipelines still pass, still go, and yes, you are assuming vulnerabilities might go through. But the scan starts, and eventually you get the results. So you are better off doing this than not scanning at all, or just scanning once a week or once a month. This is really good because the pipeline doesn't block, and you still get a warning every time something changes, because you still see the scan starting, and eventually you'll get the results. And this is really cool, works really well, because the scan also doesn't run in the pipeline. It doesn't consume the pipeline minutes. So the infrastructure, the product, the developers will not be annoyed because you are exhausting their minutes. And eventually, if everything goes well, you might consider blocking the pipeline, either by putting the scan really on the pipeline. Sometimes it needs to be like in the middle of the process to stop it. But you can also stop the pipeline from the site. So if the scan goes in parallel, you can issue a message, you can notify the pipeline if you are still in time to stop it. But the way to go, my take here is, as I mentioned a few slides ago, focus only on the high risk. If you want to block the pipelines, disable everything and just enable one type of vulnerability first. Make sure that process is smooth, and then slowly enable more tests, because otherwise the developers will find a workaround, because their mission is to deliver. And you are getting in the way, so they'll basically find a way to push changes to production, bypassing the pipelines. They will. I can tell you that up front. So, and they are smart, so they will outsmart you. So here the idea, even if you don't block the pipelines, at least it's important to log everything, report all the vulnerabilities, so you can create a backlog. And now I have another slide about it in a few seconds. I've been talking a little bit only about security testing from the scanner point of view, the DAST, Dynamic Application Security Testing, which is essentially a tool that replicates a hacker at home breaking the application. But scanners alone are not enough. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet, so you need to combine multiple tools. Software composition analysis that looks at your dependencies is normally really fast. It's really cool, it doesn't take a lot of time. The problem is that it will report you a lot of findings. It will tell you that everything is outdated, everything has a security vulnerability, one thing most of these tools fail is that the volume of vulnerabilities is huge, and they don't make a lot of distinction between the high and low risk. It's hard for you to know if I should fix that vulnerability or not, because you might get a report saying there's a high risk vulnerability on a dependency, but you might not be using that function from that dependency. So it's really hard. There's a lot of noise involved. And these tools are really cool when they create merge requests automatically, because that's what you want. You don't want to detect vulnerabilities, you want to fix them. So these tools help you fix the vulnerabilities with the automatic merge requests. Tools that analyze the source code. These are probably one of the oldest type of security tools. They look at the source code and they go line by line, like doing code review and running the code. And they're really good at finding some specific vulnerabilities, but they have so many false positives, so much noise, that traditionally the industry and the developers hate them. I haven't seen a lot of success stories with these tools, because normally people enable them, everything is enabled by default, so a lot of false positives. So it helps, but you need to apply the same ideas that I explained before. Start small, enable only high-risk vulnerabilities. IAST, or Interactive Application Security Testing. It's an interesting idea, where basically you put an agent on your code, which basically monitors what your application receives. And imagine an agent connects to your code, looking at the data that goes to the database, to your code. And if it sees something nasty, it will report it. And it will tell you, look, this payload, this malicious input, was about or reached the database. So you have a vulnerability. A good thing is that there are barely no false positives. Everything is what it reports, it's real. The bad thing is that it needs someone to do the bad things for the agent to see it. So you need to run, ideally, you run a scanner against the application that has the agent. And also downside is that requires an agent. So normally people don't like to change the application codes to add stuff. Another interesting topic for me that I've been defending for a while, and I'm not the only one, hopefully, is to treat all your vulnerabilities like any other bug. Essentially, vulnerabilities are not special. They are a bug with some security impact. But just because it's a vulnerability doesn't need to be fixed immediately, or all the vulnerabilities need to be fixed. It's okay to have some vulnerabilities if the consequences of exploiting that vulnerabilities are cheaper than fixing it. Sometimes the fix is so expensive, like replacing the whole system, that it's just cheaper it's like the fraud with credit cards. Fraud with credit cards has been around for years. And in theory, we have mechanisms, processes, technology to stop the fraud. But it's probably too expensive to stop the fraud because it will make a dent on everyone's life. It will impact people's life. So for them, it's fine. Okay, there's frauds, credit cards are being stolen. The number is manageable. I still make more money than I was here. And it's still easier to handle the fraud than to fix it. And this is the idea. So my take here is that every vulnerability you get reported, treat it like a bug. You do the triage, you prioritize it, you discuss it, and it goes to the backlog. If it's low risk or you find out it's not worth fixing it, it's fine. It's risk management. It should not have, we should not aim to fix all the vulnerabilities. That doesn't make sense because some vulnerabilities are fine. The impact is neglectable. So treat them as a bug. And just to wrap up, which I'm already behind schedule a little bit, my main suggestion for putting security in the pipeline is that actually doesn't involve any kind of security in the pipeline. If you are struggling with that, let's take a step back and schedule a scan. Find whatever tool you use and make it run periodically. It's much faster, much more effective. And eventually you'll figure out how you get the tool running in the pipeline. But let's do baby steps. So schedule a scan. It will run weekly or monthly. Based on our experience, weekly is the choice of most of our customers. And I can being totally honest, most of them do this. Most of them don't have a scanner on the pipeline because all the problems I mentioned before, and despite the potential solutions, it's still very hard. But if you want to do that, start adding the tools really slow to your pipeline. Maybe an SCA first, because normally it's easier to handle the results. It's just update some libraries, hopefully. It's only the minor version. Start really simple. And then only when the whole process is a well-oiled machine, add more stuff. So, and I've been through this. I've enabled an SCA on my pipeline, and I ended up with thousands of vulnerabilities. And now I don't know what to do because it's not manageable. So I need to go back, disable it. I actually did this. I had to go back, disable it. Okay, let's start from scratch. Let's enable it on a single project and maybe just these types of vulnerabilities. And I'm still struggling with managing the outcomes. Asynchronous scanning, it's really cool. The pipeline triggers the scan, but it runs in parallel. And whatever you do, most important, don't get in the way of the product. I know sometimes we need to say no, but most of the times everything it's smoother if you sit next to them, try to understand their pains and try to negotiate a little bit. And I know it's hard because you are basically closing your eyes to some problems, but you need to pick your fights and go one at a time. But whatever you do, don't get in the way. Otherwise, people will find a way. They'll go around. And that's it.
We can take one or two questions, but
yeah, I will stay here after the event also.
And there's a question in the chat. Questions in the room? I'm sure she has questions.
Me, I have often issue with the scanning with a single page apps because it doesn't work like I like it to work.
So the question was that DAS, the dynamic application security scanners, now we don't work with SPA, single page applications that heavily rely on APIs. Let me think for a second, how do I answer without being a salesperson? Our solution does. But yeah, most tools struggle with that. Despite being a new technology with 10 years or maybe, there's still a lot of tools that struggle with that because they just look at plain HTTP requests and they don't understand how they work and where they go. But well, ours does. It's really good at it.
Any other question? Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.